Now we can start with the first questions. My suggestion is we first take 1, 2, or 3, or 4 questions, and then we answer it, and then we end. I think this is the best because there probably will be more questions. So we have the first. Okay, if it's a remark and a question, then okay. You have the mic here.
Well, the comment is that I think that we shouldn't make generalizations on the one hand and distinctions on the other on a selective basis. And according to predetermined concepts used in a loose way, on the one hand, and on the other, on forgetting the constraints of geography and history. So we cannot compare the situation in Egypt, Greece, and Croatia and say that they are all victims of imperialism, forgetting at the same time that Greece has got 8,000 companies in the Balkans exploiting the local population, that Greece doesn't allow the Republic of Macedonia to have the name that the people want. We cannot say that Egypt is only a particular case in the Arab world. And then, instead of in trying to avoid a Eurocentric discussion, we have an Egypt-centric discussion. And despite all respect I have for the Egyptian revolution, and finally, regarding the Chinese, I mean, I really cannot understand. I mean, if we use, taking the thread from what David Harvey said, if, and here's the question, if we distinguish between economic imperialism, okay, and military and economic imperialism, then I really don't understand why we speak about, we speak of the buying of the Greek port of Piraeus by the Chinese after a competitive bid with other foreign companies. They both, the government privatized the port, and it was the Chinese that got it. And I mean, they are allowed to follow their policy in the area. So this is some kind of policy of the Chinese government, while other kind of such privatization and exploitation of this privatization by private companies is economic imperialism. I am trying to get an explanation of this, and nothing is special.
From whom is special?
From Samir.
Okay, let's first take another question. You were... Yes? Okay, the mic is here, so... Okay. Please raise your hands and I will see who else. No, on the left side first, and then Bernard Fumu on the right.
Thank you.
Can you please stand up so that people can see you?
I'm understood as a performer now, so I'll be very short. The question is for anybody. Can you speak about movements Srećko called Arabic Spring as a hope for a different context of being, different identification practices? And if we can these movements be a yardstick, a criteria for other non-Arabic movements that want to rearrange power relations and that wanted to challenge the current structure.
Okay, thanks. Here we have another question. Okay. You please take notes. We will get it more because it's more. So. Okay, you don't have to. Please. Just put it up.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One is.
Can you please speak?
One is which is going on in Libya. I don't understand that we discuss this problem in the Arab countries and so forth, and we don't discuss the Libya. What we try to understand what is going on in Libya, and how can we interpret it? So I see that the second question is about the method of this revolt in the Arab countries, starting with Tunisia. I think that what happened in Tunisia and Egypt was that the Western style or democracy accept all kinds of demonstrations, so long as they are non-violent. But in general, these protestations don't have any political target. They will never say that we want a prime minister or a government or a president to change like this. That is not acceptable. But what happened in Tunisia and
can you please pose the question?
Egypt was that the state had a political target. My question to the opposition is that why do they say that this is possible only in the Arab countries? Why it is something which cannot be used, the method type of method, that we cannot import in Europe? I mean, what type of lessons the Europeans draw from these experiences for their own practice in Europe?
Okay, we'll give a chance for last question. While the mic is traveling, I'll answer to your both questions, very short. First, Libya. Unfortunately, we could make another round table on Libya, and it's our fault we didn't mention it. I don't know what to say else. The second question, I invite you all, of course, and this is not PR of the conference. Tomorrow we have a round table, on Friday, under the title, Is the Balkans the New Maghreb? Of course, it's provocative, but we will try to answer exactly this question, what Europe can learn from the Arab world. But this doesn't mean that other comrades cannot answer your questions. I will just try to explain. So please, the last question, and then we will try to be very, very short. Please have patience.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. What I have heard in this discussion is mostly the states and the countries personified. China, this, United States, this, Egypt, this. So this is also my question about what is the enemy, the imperialism or capitalism. But if the states are personified, then what do the states represent? The people of the states or the capital of the states? And if the PR, if the objective status has been changed, but subjective status has not been changed, then for me it means that the PR companies working for the capital are actually working with all of us, bringing up our nationalism as a means to keep us within the country's boundaries. So, what is the country? What is the future of the countries in this global or anti-global status today? Should we fight as a countries, or should we fight locally, not thinking about borders?
Okay, thanks a lot. Now we will have the right answers, and then we will end and hopefully survive. Who wants to start first? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, since Harris has provoked me, I am compelled to try to give some answer, very short, very brief. You see, the difference between the Western powers, US, Europe, and Japan, and China. When the US or Europe move in Africa, for instance, they don't say we want oil, or want copper, or want land. No. They say first you have to open the door, accept the rules of globalization with no control, and then we'll come and do what we want. And this is what they do. They compel the country to accept neoliberal globalization as a condition, and then they can come and take the oil or take whatever they want. The Chinese are not in a position to do that, and they don't do that. They come and they say, well, we want oil, or for instance, or copper or land. Let us negotiate. What do you want in counterpart?
Apart from Tibet.
That gives, according to who you are, if you have or if you have not a concept of what you want, you could turn that into something beneficial. You could turn it. If you don't turn it into something beneficial and you give up all to the Chinese, that's your responsibility. You are not. That's a very big difference. The second point, very, very briefly, is that imperialism is the product of a long history. It has a social basis. It has come, it is now at the late stage of developed capitalism, in which a lot of problems, such as the agrarian problems, have been solved in their way through history. This objective basis does not exist neither in China, nor in India, nor in Brazil, nor in any emerging countries. And therefore, putting the same qualification for two sets of countries which historically and presently in the global system are completely different is, in my view, not correct, not acceptable. And therefore, the world...
Egypt and Croatia is...
Oh, of course. And this, I never say Egypt, Croatia, and Greece. No, if I say Egypt, Croatia, I never say that. Excuse me, I never say that. And if by mischance I would say Egypt, Croatia, and Greece are victims of capitalism, I could say all countries of the world are victims of capitalism, full stop. It will be a platitude of no importance.
Okay, Harvey, Samir, get a room and later discuss it. We should give the chance to all speakers to answer short and then we finish. Okay.
One question point answer. Yes, Chinese come and say, let's negotiate. I will now connect this with your question. My point is, to whom do they come? Usually to a local dictator. That's the problem. That's why they don't have to. They came definitely to Mugabe, let's negotiate. They came to Myanmar, military rule to negotiate, and so on.
David, you maybe want to add something?
Well, about the state, who's in control of the state varies a lot. Social democratic forces sometimes exercise control. We see that, or some degree of control. We see that in Latin America, for example, which is one of the favorable things. in the United States, it's a certain faction of capital that effectively controls the state. Because as Mark Twain once wittingly said, he said the United States is the best government that money can buy. and money is finance capital, which doesn't do any favors for industrial capital. And actually the same has been true in Britain for a rather long time. So the result is that state policy is sort of affected by, you know, the powers that work inside of the state. Now, money capital is what I call the butterfly form of capital. It can flit around like this and this and this. So if the state apparatus is going to deal with the needs of the butterfly form of capital as opposed to dealing with production capital that's much more solidly in place, then you need to actually structure a global financial system where money can run around the world very fast and flip from this to that, and in and out, and this kind of thing. And that is what the United States has pursued over the last 30 years, which has changed, if you like, the economic policy and changed the nature of how imperial power is exercised. Because it's now very much exercised through Goldman Sachs and the sort of major financial institutions in association with the Treasury. And so you have a particular situation in the United States where social democratic forces have very little to say about what national policy is about. So if finance capital decides it's in its benefit to deindustrialize the United States, that's what they did. I mean, they destroyed the basis of American industry. And put all those, you know, the solid working class gets destroyed. And towns, like the one I used to live in, Baltimore, which was a blue-collar city, now has lost almost all of its blue-collar jobs. And this is part of state policy. But it was because the state has been run by the financiers. So now you could turn that around and you see some strange alliances, for example, between production capital and the labour unions. They both want a different kind of policy. So they both go to Congress together, hand in hand, and smile at each other and tell Congress to change its policy, stop favouring all the financiers. So, you know, what happens with the state apparatus and the kind of imperialist strategies that come out of it vary a great deal. And on the Libya thing, I have to say, probably surprising, I don't think that the United States took the lead on the Libya thing. I think it was France that really took the lead. And I think, in many respects, the United States was rather a reluctant partner in the whole Libya thing. I don't think it really wanted to get involved. I mean, other people may have a different kind of view of it, but that's my sense of it on the ground in the United States. And the real belligerent character was Sarkozy. And I think that, you know, again, why Sarkozy went that way, well, some of you French folk better tell us, you know, because I'm not quite sure. And why the United States was reluctant, well, I can tell you one of the reasons it's reluctant. It's already fighting 2 wars, for God's sake, and look at the US budget situation, and just simple kind of Obama looking at this saying, oh, we can't afford another one. And I think they recognized it might be another one, and it is indeed turning into another one. And so I think that, you know, and I think they're pissed off at Sarkozy because he pushed them and they get into it, and it turns out the only ones who have real firepower are the United States, and so the United States gets dragged into it in the way it's been dragged in. So again, these things, this is where it gets down to the nuances of who's in control and who's doing what for what purpose, you know. So I think the kind of the way the state works is...
Sorry, David, Slavoj has to run to airport to Brazil, so I think... Say hi. Now we will begin and see who will be the next one over the stage. But please do so.
I will not keep you longer, just 30 seconds. I wanted to say something generalized now as global and also compare between different societies. Dividing any society by using differences, national, ethnic, or religious differences have never happened has never happened just out of nothing, as if the people just discovered suddenly that they cannot live together. It happens always, and without an exception, only by the help of the enemy. And don't call me a conspiracy theoretical, I am not. But these are strategies that concentrated on any society to divide it. And I think Yugoslavia is an example. I think the history is full of examples like this, India, Pakistan, whatever. And that is something we are watching every day in Egypt now. The atrocities that you have heard now in the news, every second day we have a disaster on the street because suddenly Muslims are killing Christians and something like this. This is conspiracy, and I am not a friend of conspiracy theory, but that is something that people are watching every day. And this is something I can generalize and tell you. Everything that happened in this sense, ethnic or religious or national, always by the help of the enemy. Thank you.
Before we go away, it wasn't easy tonight, especially not for me, so sorry if... before we leave, first I would like a huge applause for our simultaneous translators. Before we leave, I would like to invite you all tomorrow on the schedule Antonio Negri and David Harvey. And now a big applause for everyone. And thanks for watching.
Essa pista.